All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're looking at a really interesting proposal out of Alabama. It's an idea that could completely flip the script on what we think prisons are for, moving away from just punishment and towards, well, meaningful restoration. So, this one question, it's the whole heart of the proposal. It's asking us to totally rethink what justice even looks like. I mean, think about it. Instead of just focusing on paying a debt for something that happened in the past, what if the entire system was built to create a better future? Not just for the person who committed the crime, but for the victim and really for all of us. Okay, so to really get how this thing would work, we've got to first dig into the big idea behind it all. It's a totally new way of looking at justice. You can really see the two different mindsets here. On one side, you have the traditional punishment model, which is all about looking backwards, right? It's focused on isolation, on paying a debt. But this rehabilitation model, it's all about looking forward. And don't get me wrong, accountability is still a huge part of it, but the main goal is to actually prepare someone to successfully rejoin society. And at the very heart of this new approach is something called restorative justice. Now, the key phrase here is all stakeholders. That's huge, because this isn't just about the person who did wrong. It's a process that actually brings the victim, the community, and the inmate to the table to figure out how to repair the harm that was done, together. So how do you make a big idea like this actually happen? Well, the proposal lays out a super clear, structured plan. It's built on 4 specific phases. Think of it like a roadmap, designed to guide an inmate step by step through a pretty incredible transformation. All right, so the journey starts inside the prison walls. The first 2 phases are all about doing that deep, personal work. Building a solid foundation before you can even start to think about life on the outside. So phase 1 is called Revive, and it's all about building that foundation we just talked about. The main goal? Accountability. This is done using tools like cognitive behavioral therapy and moral education, things that help inmates really, truly understand the ripple effect of their actions. The harm they cause their victims, their own families, their communities. It's basically about hitting the reset button on their moral compass. Okay, so once that moral foundation is in place, we move to phase 2, Rebuild. And this is where the focus shifts to practical, real-world skills. We're talking about inmates earning a GED or even an associate's degree, learning a trade like HVAC or coding. But check out that last point. They also start contributing to a victims' advocacy fund. And this isn't just for show. It's a real, tangible way of making amends. It reinforces that sense of empathy and responsibility. So with all that internal work happening, the next 2 phases are really about building a bridge from life inside prison back to the outside world, and making sure that the changes they've made are actually going to stick. Phase 3 is Renew, and this is where the rubber really meets the road. Inmates start using their new skills in work release programs, earning actual wages. They also work on soft skills, things like communication, and start the hard work of reconnecting with their families. And this is also the phase where, if everyone agrees, inmates and victims can meet in a safe, supervised setting. This can be an incredibly powerful step towards healing for everybody involved. And that brings us to the final step, phase 4, Reinforce. This is all about the final prep for release. Inmates get to a point where they've mastered their trade, they learn about managing money, and they even start mentoring newer folks in the program, which helps create this really positive cycle. The point is, they don't just walk out with wishful thinking. They leave with a solid, concrete plan. We're talking housing lined up and a job waiting for them. And this number, $12,000, really shows you how practical this whole thing is. It's not just a suggestion. Every single person who graduates from this program has to have saved at least 12 grand from their work release job. Why? Because financial stress is one of the biggest reasons people end up back in prison. This way, they walk out the door with a real financial cushion, a stable foundation to build on from day one. Okay, so this all sounds great on paper, right? But the big question is, does it actually work? Like, in the real world? Well, let's take a look at a couple of incredible stories that show what can happen when you put this idea into practice. This quote right here, it just nails it. This isn't about being soft on crime. It's about understanding that sometimes a victim's compassion can be the exact thing that sparks real, lasting change in an offender. Let's talk about Jason Casper and Michael Clifton. Their lives became tangled together because of one single terrible moment. So years after the crime, they actually agreed to meet. And that one conversation, it led to something that's hard to even imagine: healing and forgiveness for both of them. And get this, today they actually work together. They share their story to try and stop youth violence. They literally turned a shared trauma into a shared mission. And then there's the story of Debbie Bagri and Ian Manuel. It's just as powerful, but this one played out over many, many years. So Ian was just a teenager when he committed a really serious crime against Debbie. And what did she do? Something most of us would never think to do. She started writing to him while he was in prison. And over the years, her compassion was like a lifeline for him. She ended up becoming his biggest advocate, and her support was absolutely key to his healing and, eventually, his successful return to society. Just wow. I mean, these stories are just incredible, right? But the bigger idea behind this proposal is that this isn't just about a few amazing individual cases. It's about creating a positive ripple effect that actually benefits all of us, the whole society. And here's the most important part. This isn't a situation where, for one person to win, another has to lose. It's a win-win-win. Victims get a voice, a real chance for closure, inmates learn empathy and get a legitimate shot at a new life. And what does society get? Safer communities, lower prison costs, and maybe, just maybe, a justice system we can actually trust. So when you boil it all down, the goals are huge, but they're clear. This whole plan is designed to tackle massive problems like prison overcrowding and the revolving door of recidivism. It's about making prisons safer for staff and inmates. But maybe the biggest thing of all is that it tries to give back dignity and a sense of purpose to people that society has basically given up on. And that's the ultimate vision, isn't it? A justice system that does more than just punish, one that actively heals. A system that sees the humanity in everyone involved, the person who was harmed and the person who did the harming, and actually builds a real path forward for both of them.